Hey!
What's up, people?
Welcome back to the Loddy Doddy Show, episode 5. If you join us, drop a comment, say hello, something.
Give us a shout out.
Give us a shout out, yeah. Give us a shout out so we know you're here with us. We're not alone. Hey, Allison, how are you?
There's my girl. She's always in the house.
Allison, that's my soul sister. Howdy.
Whoop, howdy.
Is it snowing, Allison? Hey, Ann, how are you?
Yeah.
Okay, so should we wait for a couple of people to jump on?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's only just been a minute.
Okay, so we'll tell you what we're doing today while we wait for a few more people to join us. We are taking the grand dude, J-Man, as he's affectionately known, to his first movie. The child has never had movie popcorn, so we're going to rectify that situation today. I'm a little nervous, to tell you the truth, because he's never been to a movie theater.
And he will be on 100.
I don't know if people know what that means.
He'll be through the roof happy.
Yeah, he's super
and
excited.
Probably loud and making all kinds of comments.
Yeah.
So we'll have to try to get him to.
Yeah. Oh God, that's gonna be fun. But we told him he was bouncing off the freaking walls today, and we told him that he had to take a nap for him to go to the movies, or we weren't gonna go. The little sucker went in there and got in his bed and fell asleep while we were working out. Roger went and checked, and he's napping. Check out my stories. You'll see a picture of him.
Yeah, that shocked me because that's almost like landing on the moon. He is not about going in there and taking a nap on his own.
He's not about taking a nap, even if you make him. So that's, you know how bad he wants to go to the movies. Yeah, he is psyched, and he's like super psyched. And we got tickets at this theater that's our favorite theater. We love it because it has the like leather big reclining seats. You know, so it's a lot of fun. The seats recline and they're huge, and so he's gonna enjoy it. He's gonna be so excited. He told his teacher about it yesterday.
Yeah, he told the teacher and the people in the front.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. As soon as I picked him up yesterday, they were like, he told us he's going to see Black Panther.
Oh gosh, yeah. Oh yeah, that's what we're taking him to see, Black Panther. So he asked me if the popcorn was going to be black. So I didn't even know he knew that it was a movie.
Yeah, he's seen the commercials because he's always talking about Black Panther jumps on the car.
Oh, that's where he got that. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, several of my friends have seen it and have told me that it's good. It's fine to take a 4-year-old to, and he loves superhero movies, and so
yes.
The other reason I think it will be good for him as a young boy of color to see a superhero of color. I think that's really important, because he loves Captain America and Iron Man and
Batman,
yeah,
and Flash,
but they're all white. And so, like, kids need to see themselves, right?
Yeah.
They need to see themselves in those roles. They need to see people who look like them. So this will be fun. It'll be fun. Although, I don't know what he thinks of, or even if he has a concept yet of any of that, because when I ask him what color our eyes are, he'll say that Roger's eyes are brown. He'll tell me his eyes are brown. He tells me my eyes are blue, and he kind of looks at me like I'm stupid. Don't you know that? But when I ask him about skin color, he tells me that I'm brown, and he's brown, and Roger's brown. So I don't think he understands that there's. I mean, I know he knows the difference between colors, but he calls me brown too. So anyway.
Yeah, Allison, Captain America's pretty cool. Especially he's like the old school superhero, one of the first. And if you don't know, I'm pretty partial. I'm not like a super knowledgeable buff, but I like heroes, superheroes, and those kind of either the cartoon style or the newer ones where they actually have like real people playing superheroes. I kind of get pretty pumped on those.
Yeah.
Big kid.
We see them all. Okay, so today I kind of teased in my stories the topic, and I put in the title chatting about, splitting up amicably. And so that's what we want to talk about, because we've talked about this in general, especially...
What's up, Lip?
Hey, Kelly. Especially since our lives have changed in the last little over a year now, I guess about 14, 15 months ago, and we got a new little one, and I hear this from women all the time. So what we're talking about is like roles and responsibilities and how you split those things up, because this is a new day and age.
I see you, kinfolk.
And, things aren't like they used to be. I grew up, my mom did all the cooking. My dad, I should take that back. He fried fish or something. Like if we were doing something outside, like he would fry fish or, whatever. And grill stuff. He would grill stuff, and he still does.
My dad didn't do jack. He couldn't do nothing but burn bologna. That's about it.
Oh, gross. Fried bologna. You remember eating fried bologna, anybody? Ugh. And Spam. Do you remember the canned Spam and frying it in a pan?
I ate so much Spam growing up that
oh my God.
Spam and pressed ham I no longer eat. Not gonna happen.
Oh, please don't eat that, people. Please don't eat that. Anyway, so my dad might have done stuff like that, but I also watched my dad sit at the and I'm gonna tell on him. Hey, Lindsay. I would see him sit at the dinner table, because we would sit down to dinner every night at the dinner table as a family.
And we never sat at the table.
We always did, every night. And my dad, we had tea. My mom made sweet tea every day, and
we kept Kool-Aid.
White people kept sweet tea. Black folks drank Kool-Aid.
No, because on my mom's side, my grandmother, like my aunt and that side, they always had tea.
Oh, really?
Like brewed tea.
Yeah.
But we always had Kool-Aid.
And they brewed it where they made a pitcher full?
Well, I mean, yeah, they made it in a pitcher full,
yeah.
But, it was on from the stove,
Yeah, right.
Now, I did have a cousin that made the sun tea outside in the big glass containers, too.
Yeah, that's good.
But it was just odd that, coming from the same household, you would have thought that my mom would have made tea, too, because that's what she would have grown up with.
Right.
But I think probably because Kool-Aid was a lot easier. You didn't have to take that much time. You just put water in and sugar and stir it up, and you're done.
Yeah.
That's probably why my mom went with
we don't drink Kool-Aid, and we don't drink sweet tea in this house either. But growing up,
we don't make it in the house. Now I get half and half when I eat out quite often. I'm just gonna keep it real.
Half and half, though. I mean, you do. That's balance, right? Half and half.
Most places make it too sweet.
Yeah.
Sugar.
But what I was gonna say is, so we would have sweet tea for dinner. Hey, Taylor. And when my dad's glass got emptied, he would literally pick it up and shake the ice, and my mom would get up and refill his freaking glass, and it used to chap my ass, to tell you the truth. But so that's kind of the way we grew up. So inside stuff was the woman's job, the outside stuff was the man's job, right? So that is, I don't know, that just doesn't seem realistic in today's world to me. And I've talked with women who are challenged by this and struggle with this all the time. And I'm just going to be honest, because most often what they tell me is they don't get enough help from their husbands. And so when I'm talking to them about being able to, work out, they want to lose weight, or they, whatever their goals are, a lot of times it comes up that they don't have time for themselves because they work outside the home a lot of times. Most of the time they have a full-time job. But then let's be real. I mean, taking care of a house and kids, and sometimes husbands are more high maintenance than other times. Oftentimes. And so if you're responsible for all of that as a woman, then you have more than a full-time job. So that's a challenge for a lot of the women that I talk to, is like, how do I find the time to, prep meals, or how do I find the time to even have 30 minutes to myself? Now, I will tell you that my belief is you can't take care of, and you guys have heard me say this a million times, but you can't take care of everybody else and do a good job. You can't be a good wife. You can't be a good mom. You're definitely not going to be as good of an employee or a boss or supervisor. You're not going to be as good a friend. You're not going to be your best in all of those roles if you're not taking care of yourself. I mean, it's just like, when they tell you, when you're on an airplane, they tell you to put your own oxygen mask on first. Even if you have your kids with you, they tell you put your own oxygen mask on first and then assist other people. It's the same freaking thing. You have to put your own oxygen mask on in life first before you can be able to assist other people, right? So I think a friend of mine at work and I were talking a little bit about this just in the last week or so. I won't call his name, but he knows who he is. He was talking about how as women we're more nurturers, and I think even though I'm probably not like your stereotypical nurturing, mothering female, I don't think I'm not really. Am I, like, naturally? I've never thought of myself.
No, I wouldn't. I mean, you have qualities, but that wouldn't be overall what I would say is your disposition as nurturing now.
Yeah. So and he was telling me, even though I'm not kind of, that much of a nurturer, that even I have this sort of innate quality that I can't help myself sometimes.
I know,
for
it's a trap,
helping
right,
people.
Allison? I don't care. If you ask, I'm going to tell you.
That's true. That's true.
So don't ask. If you don't want to know, don't ask.
That's true. Don't ever ask him if you don't. If you put on a pair of pants, this is like that stereotypical scene. If you put on a pair of pants and you ask your husband if you look fat in them, do not do that, because he won't use the word fat, but he will definitely tell you if they make you look big. So don't think you're going to ask that and get like the answer you want to hear. He's too honest for his own good sometimes. I used to tell him all the time that he had to learn how to handle me, which he does. He does a lot better job. It's taken him 18 years to learn it, but no, you didn't. You learned it earlier than that. But the first couple of years, he did not handle me and my emotional self very well. But anyway, so back to splitting it up amicably. So here's kind of, and you guys tell us, like, in your house, when you grew up and how it is now, did your mom, or do you, if you're a woman, because I don't think any guys are on here with us.
Well, Kelly's on here.
Oh, that's right, Kelly.
Still,
that's right. So, like, in your house and now and growing up, did they split up the inside work, or did mom do everything on the inside? Hey, Natalie, how are you? I bet I know the answer to your household, though, Natalie. I bet you Jake does not do one dish, does he? Tell the truth. Does he cook and do anything in the house, any household chores? We're talking about, like, splitting up, like, the roles and the
responsibility of the household.
Yeah. Well, and that goes for the outside, too, because, so here's kind of, like, how we handle it. Because I totally, with my feminist bitch self, I do not think that I should do everything. And I was lucky enough to find a dude who doesn't think I should have to do everything either. Hey, Andrea.
Andrea.
I hope you're feeling well. He does do housework? Well, good for you. He would never admit that. I bet you if we were out there, he probably acts like you do everything, though, doesn't he? That's good, Jake. Thumbs up for you, dude. See, Lindsay said, growing up, my mom dictated chores and the family complied. It works that way. Awesome. That's right. Mom knew what was up, right? My mom did not dictate the chores, but here's how we kind of deal with it. Yeah, he talks a big game, Natalie said. Jake talks a big game. Yeah. Probably a lot like Block, too. Talks a big game, but I bet he washes dishes. And he cooks. So this became a real issue when we got Jax, because our lives were completely different. And so this is why I'm bringing it up, because a lot of the women that I talk to have younger kids. Like a lot of you on here, I know have younger kids. Natalie, I know you have the boys, and another woman that I was talking to this week has a young child, and actually a couple of the women that I was talking to, they have younger kids. They're like, school age or even younger, even toddler, like preschool age, like our Jax is. And says that in her house, it was more traditional growing up, but now they mix it up much more, and he does. If I cook, he does the dishes. That's good. That's awesome. But anyway, so they were telling us, or these women were telling me that like they don't have a lot of time because there's an imbalance in what goes on in their house. And so I'm glad to hear a lot of you guys are saying that your guys help out, because here's the deal. When we got Jax, I like completely went to pieces emotionally and just because I knew there was no way that I could take care of, he was 2.5 at the time. I could take care of a 2.5-year-old, like do the bath time and the bedtime and the feeding stuff and the getting up in the middle of the night, and because he did not sleep through the night. Like do all the housework, and I never had to do the laundry. I'll tell you that honestly. Roger's mom did a really good job. She raised him right, and he does his own laundry. I
usually do. Well, I always do my own laundry,
yeah.
And I usually probably 99% of the time do like all of our towels from our bathroom, and then probably 90 to 95% of Jax's clothes, keep them washed, just to try to help out, because I don't mind washing clothes. I'm not real big on folding, but
I'll take a picture of our pool table right now.
But I do try to help in that way.
Hey Mom, how are you? And that's made a huge difference, and it's because I work full time, plus I run a business, plus I mean there's just a lot of responsibility that goes with a house and everything else, and so we split things up,
Well, and she, as she has said thousands of times, hates to cook.
Mm-hmm.
And so
true story.
We both hate doing dishes. I had to do dishes growing up. I had a turn. I had 2 older sisters, 2 younger brothers. And so basically all the while I was growing up, it was my younger brothers didn't really get involved because they were younger. But my 2 older sisters and I rotated, and I hated dishes, but my mom made me have a turn.
Some love.
So anyway, I say that to say, like, I know how to cook what I want to eat, and I can cook pretty decent for breakfast. Pancakes and breakfast stuff. I can, fry fish, which we don't eat a whole lot of anymore that we're, eating healthy. But when I cook for us or for myself or whatever, I generally try to clean up my own mess. So that's not something that she has to worry with. And I always try to pick up after myself, whether it be my clothes or my cups or plates or whatever, because quite frankly, I'm very anal, and I just don't like a lot of clutter laying around, because I don't want to have to pick up after somebody else when they can pick up after themselves after each individual sitting. Like if you've got stuff and you're eating somewhere, then when you get done eating, put it up, put it in the sink, whatever. Don't just leave it laying all over the place, and then we don't have to spend Saturdays all day trying to clean up the damn house. So,
and I have to say, he says he's pretty good. He's really very good about cleaning up after himself. He's way better than I am about it. It's one thing that I've tried to be, out of respect for him, be more cognizant of, because I'll be honest, I would kick off my shoes whenever I walked in, wherever. If I sat down on the couch, I'd kick my shoes off and I would just leave them there. There might be, 1 or 2 pairs of shoes by the door. There might be a pair of shoes by the couch. I've always been, well, since I was an adult, my mom's on here and she'll call me out as a liar if I say when I was a kid I was neat, because I wasn't. My room was a mess when I was a kid. But as an adult, and since I've had my own place, I've always been pretty good about, like, I put my clothes in the dirty clothes. I don't leave clothes laying around the house or things like that. But I've tried to be better about picking up after myself, just because I know that he's particular about that. And that is one thing that I appreciate about him, because, like he said, he doesn't leave, like, dishes on the coffee table, or if he eats and he's watching TV, he doesn't leave his plate or his glass there. He kind of has this just, I think it's just ingrained in him because his mom raised him the way she did, that, if you use something, you put it back. If you eat something, you clean up after yourself, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Which that really does make our lives a lot easier. But like I said, I mean, people have ways of doing things. Harley, I need to trim your ears. Sorry. Squirrel. People have ways of doing things, and then kids come along, and a lot of times that causes a lot of problems because your life changes, and if you didn't talk about that and you didn't figure it out beforehand, then it's like, okay, so, one person may have some expectations and another person may have others. And so I guess that's kind of what the biggest message that we want to say is, like, talk about it and figure it out, because there are certain things that he does not like to do, and I don't mind as much doing. There are certain things that I don't like to do, and he doesn't mind as much doing. And I'll give you a perfect example. He does mow the yard. I don't mind, but he enjoys doing it. And because, frankly, I have suggested that we pay somebody to mow the yard, but he doesn't want to do that.
We got enough bills already. As long as I can do it, it's kind of therapy too.
But he does the yard, but he is not about taking care of flowers.
Landscaping.
Or, yeah.
I will reluctantly from time to time do the hedges. I don't mind trimming the limbs back on the trees, with the pole saw. But flower beds, I only do it occasionally to assist.
So if I want flowers in the potted area, potted flowers, or if I want in some areas around the house, if, in the spring, if I want something pretty growing there, then I do that. But that's fine. I mean, he takes care of the yard 100% of the time, and I don't mind doing that, and that's something that I want. So, but by the same token, he knows that I have a lot of responsibilities in that.
You better watch out.
Oh,
she might take
gosh.
you up on that.
Girl, I will book you a flight when it gets time to do our yard. I really, it's not my favorite thing to do. I like it being done, but I don't like doing it.
Or maintaining it.
Okay, that's true. I don't really like maintaining it that much either. I have to remember to water it, and I'm freaking busy. Yeah. So, anyway, but by the same token, he is considerate about how he helps in the house too. And so, and we did have to have some more conversation about that after we got Jax, because Jax creates a lot more work than what we had. We lived alone. Our kids were grown and gone. So,
well, and especially when we first got him, because he did not have any kind of structure or schedule, and he was up all throughout the night. And so initially, he already had a closer bond with you, so you kind of did a lot more, but it then was more difficult for you to be forceful in, like making him stay in the bed,
and consistent,
and be consistent with that. And you were tired, and he would get up and come in, so I found it easier for me to help, because I don't really mind being the bad guy, so to speak. And I am all about structure, so I'm like, come on, let's go get back in the bed. And I would get up and take him and make him get back in the bed. So I was the one who broke that mold because it was hard on her hearing him cry like that. And plus, she was already tired and worn out and stressed out from everything that was going on. So I didn't mind being the bad guy in the sense of making him, go back to bed, stay in his own bed, and not get, used to coming and getting into bed with us.
Well, and I think that's a really good point, that point in particular, and that role and responsibility, because a lot of times when people have kids, the woman, the mom, is kind of just almost expected to do all of that. And it meant a whole lot to me, and I tried to make sure that I said that to him. Hey, Christina, that it meant a lot to me that he took on that responsibility of, putting Jax back in bed, because like you said, when we first got him, it was multiple times a night. And for him to put
never more than 2 hours at a time would he stay in the bed.
Exactly. But with Roger being consistent and being firm, he knew that if he cried, and I mean, he was 2.5, but they still know, people. I mean, they know. If they cry and mommy is the nurturer and mommy is the one who puts you back in bed, it almost encourages them to cry again, to have that emotional connection. And so I really appreciated the fact that he recognized that, and he was the one to consistently, and it was hard on him too. He was up every couple of hours with him for a while because it takes consistency to break a kid of that. But eventually we ended up getting him to sleep in his own bed, and he sleeps in his own bed all night long. And I'm telling you, if we can do that with him, anybody can get any kid to sleep in a bed all night long. But I really think that especially the guys have to think about how that's not necessarily just a woman's responsibility. And I don't think you should feel bad either as a woman to say to your husband or your partner, I really need some help with this, if you could, and talk it out, because, talking about the fact that him being able to be consistent and being firm was better for Jax than the emotional trauma. It was emotionally traumatizing to me, and it was more emotionally traumatizing to Jax too. So if you just kind of talk about it and figure out what's best, I don't think there's any right or wrong.
Well, I will say I did have a somewhat selfish motive in that whole thing too, was because it irritated the hell out of me to see him, basically manipulate her, because he would cry and she would give in, and I'm like, this is not going to help. This is going to continue. It's going to get worse. So from my perspective, I didn't want to hear all the damn crying. I didn't want to be getting up 30 and 40 times a night and her upset and, making it draw out longer because she, from an emotional perspective, she wanted to be nurturing with everything that he had gone through in the situation, which I understood that, but I'm like, we got to cut this out. This has got to get nipped in the bud, because I'm not trying to get up every night,
Well, and I think that's true, like with, no matter if a kid's been through an emotional trauma or not, I think that's generally, that philosophy is generally stands, holds true, holds water, because, any kid it's just human nature to try to take advantage of whatever the situation is. And so I think that's really the bottom line, is like talking about it and figuring out what's the best thing for your family. And Roger knew too that I am much better, and you guys know, I've talked about it on my page, I deal with anxiety and depression to the max, and he knows that if I can get enough sleep and I do have that time for myself to work out, and sometimes I just need some time alone, he knows that if I have that, then our relationship is much better. I'm in a much better state of mind. I feel much better, and because of that, I treat him better. And so, and that goes both ways too. So, kind of, I guess we're rambling now, but the bottom line is, talk to your partner about it. If you're struggling with it, if things in your house, if you feel like you don't have 30 minutes literally to take care of yourself, then some communication needs to go on. invite your partner to watch this and hear Roger talk about helping out, because if anybody has this sort of machismo attitude or like dead set idea of the way what roles should be and who should do what in today's world, they really need to rethink what's important to them. Because if, as a black male, if Roger took this like staunch position that he wasn't taking a kid to the potty or he wasn't going to get a kid dressed in the morning, then that shit would not work for us. I'm just going to tell you. And so I think, you know, it doesn't have anything to do with, and I'm just going to say it, it doesn't have anything to do with a man being a pussy or being whipped or any of that crap, because I can tell you right now, Roger is not a pussy and he's not a wimp, and I don't get my way all the time. It's about communicating and respecting each other. That's the bottom line.
Because, and it may not be this way for everybody, but she knows me well enough to know that respect is a huge issue for me. And so if I feel like I'm being taken advantage of and I'm getting like the majority of a certain responsibility shoved off on me, then I start drawing back and doing less. I'm not as willing to do as much if I feel like, you know, the other person's, you know, taking advantage of the situation and not, you know, being considerate of me and doing what, you know, trying to basically share the load.
For sure. And, you know, it's our responsibility too, as the partner who's getting the help that we need, when you communicate that. If somebody responds well, I think you have to be mindful and be appreciative and not take it for granted, you know. And that's something I have to be cognizant of, because I can easily slip into, I'm not really good at praising, and I can easily slip into sort of this role of, you know, he's doing it and I internally I appreciate it, but I don't vocalize it. And look at Harley. Harley's just like, what's up? I'm here. But I have to remember to vocalize that appreciation to him. And sometimes I catch myself and I'm like, you know, and it's not like he needs to be patted on the head all the freaking time or patted on the back, but every once, I mean, it's a part of loving each other and letting each other know that you appreciate what people are doing. You know, he does the same thing for me, and it just makes things go much smoother. It's made our relationship much better. And even through challenges, I mean, taking on the responsibility of raising somebody else's child, even though it was our grandson, you know, I mean, we didn't want to take, we'll be honest, we didn't want to take on that responsibility. And that was a huge, huge struggle for us as a couple. It put a lot of pressure and stress on our relationship, but we had to keep talking, and we had to, yes, make love a verb. I love that, Anne. You're so right. And that's exactly what I think we did. Now, it wasn't easy, but that's exactly what I think we did to get through this. And it's the same kind of thing that you have to do when you think about splitting up the duties and the jobs and, you know, the responsibilities in the house. Now, I'm going to put a disclaimer on this because I want to be completely transparent. I also hired a housekeeper. She comes every other week. And he was not thrilled about it at first, but I think he sees the value, if nothing else, the emotional value and the value in my time, because she only does like the heavy cleaning. She does like, she mops, she cleans the bathrooms, she washes the sheets and changes the beds and that kind of thing. And that it's made a huge, huge difference in our lives. And when I work full time and I run a business, it's basically, you think about what is the return on investment. And I'm not saying that's for everybody, although if you want to make a little side money, and that's the kind of thing you want to pay for, message me, because that's a luxury that we can afford, because I do have a business, and for me, that's worth spending the money on. You have to think about what are things worth to you, and it's valuable. It gives me the time. I don't have to spend all day scrubbing toilets on Saturday. It's not something he's gonna do either, so that's not his gig. He's not into trying to mop floors and stuff. So
not to say that I wouldn't, but no, that's not something I'm really gonna do on a regular basis. And so, we went back and forth a while before, I was agreeable to her doing
Again,
that.
we talked about, we communicated about it.
I just thought, that's,
Diva.
our house is not that filthy, and, that's money that we don't need to spend in that way. But
it's an excellent way to spend money.
Again, when you, being a busy professional like she is, and doing the side business and trying to get it going, and then you add the grandson to the mix now. It just, all those things, I think.
And as the business has grown and gotten busier, and it does take up more of my time to help and support people, it's worth, you have to kind of think about like what's
your time.
What's your time worth versus how you're spending how you're spending your time and what it's worth to you. And it's much more valuable to me to spend time in my business than it is to be scrubbing toilets on Saturday morning. Right. So but again, it was a conversation. I didn't come in and like demand we were going to hire a housekeeper. We talked about it, and as long as, I think that's the biggest thing. That's the bottom line, is like if you talk about why you may be upset about something, or why you may be struggling with how you feel, and what it is that you would hope that someone would do to support you, then have that conversation and listen to them too. Don't get just pissed at them when they tell you their rationale for why they don't think it should go the same way you think it should. But
respect, it goes both ways.
Yeah, and it's not a conversation. Oftentimes, it's not a conversation that occurs one time and then you settle it. Right. And that's something we had to learn too, is that you can have a conversation and continue it up to the point that it's productive, and then you may need to stop the conversation. It doesn't mean that it's settled. It just means that exactly. If it's getting to a point where what we're talking about is not productive, then we have to agree to put that back on the shelf for a day or two or even a week or whatever, and let it sit until we've had time to reflect on what's already been said, and then we can take that conversation back off the shelf and talk about it again if it's unresolved. Right. And I really think that's a good point, because that was really hard for me, because I wanted early on in our relationship, I wanted to talk things like to the end until we were done with it and it was settled. And if we didn't settle it, then I had this uneasy feeling like there was something wrong. And it doesn't necessarily mean that there has to be something wrong just because you shelf a conversation. It's much worse to continue it when it's unproductive, because you're liable to say something that you really don't mean, or that's hurtful, or you're liable to lash out and not be logical about something, or get your feelings hurt and say something in reaction instead of response to it. We could probably do a whole show on that.
Yeah, and two, I think the other thing that's important, especially in our situation, and everybody's situation is different, but in our situation, and I'm of the mind frame of, I generally try to be supportive, but you're a grown-ass woman, you got a job, you work full-time, I can't tell you what to do. I can try, but quite frankly, you can tell me to go fly a kite. So from my perspective, when we're talking about these kind of things, I'm not telling you what you can and can't do. I'm telling you what my perspective is, and what I think, and what I would like, and how I would like to see it go. And I respect the fact that when you felt like this was something you wanted or needed, and I wasn't in agreement, you didn't just go. Yes, the housekeeper. Yeah. You didn't just go and do it anyway and say, to hell with that, he's not going to be on board, so I'm just doing it anyway. This is something I need to do for me. Yeah. You didn't take that attitude, and that made me a lot more agreeable to listening and considering it more. As those conversations kept going on, I was able to be a little bit more agreeable, versus had you just decided to do it, then that would have been tension, and I would have never been on board with it.
Yeah. And those are the kinds of small things that end up becoming big things when you do what he's talking about. Like if I had just gone out and said, well, you can kiss my ass, I'm hiring a housekeeper, while hiring a housekeeper may seem like a small thing in the beginning, it actually snowballs into being a lot more than about a housekeeper. It was about the fact that I said kiss my ass, I don't give a shit what you think, and I did it anyway. Then it's about that, and it's about the lack of respect. Hey Judy, and it's about not processing through the conversation. Now, had he still disagreed and continued to disagree that I needed a housekeeper, that doesn't mean that I would have given up. I would have continued. We'd have shelved this conversation and brought it back out multiple times. But I would have said things like, look, my business is doing really well, and it's a better investment of my time to spend time on my business on Saturday than cleaning house. And anytime that, if I'm having to do both, then that's taking a time away from our relationship and the time that we spend with Jax. And so, it's about trying to stay level-headed and communicate, and not being overly emotional about things. And that's why I say sometimes you have to put the conversation away, because you can get upset. And he's doing this, and we do need to end this because we go on for way longer than we probably should. But anyway, we just kind of wanted to talk about splitting up roles and responsibilities, splitting up duties, being respectful of each other, and listening to the other person's perspective. And at the root of all that, for me, it's doing that so that you have time to take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of everybody else. Harley's sleeping. We put her to sleep. We probably put all of you guys to sleep. Comment, show us some love, share
some topics on what you guys want to hear talk about.
Yeah, give us some ideas for different topics you want to chat about. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.